What's up, you beauties? Welcome to High and Wide Radio, episode 7 of season 6, the Halloween episode, Jack. And neither of us dressed up. I had a plan, I had a hat or something to wear, and I forgot it. Anyways, I'm your host, Jim Microphone, joined, as always, by Jack Smith. We'll be joined by our special guest, Mr. Bill Meltzer, in just a little bit. If you're watching us live on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed and set an alert for future shows. And if you're listening as a podcast, please make sure you're listening and subscribed on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to get notifications for future episodes the minute we upload them. All right, so we got a couple topics that we want to get to tonight. Obviously, we have a special guest, and who better to talk to about Morgan Frost than the Bill Meltzer. Flyers are off to a 4-4-1 start. It's a 500 record, obviously. But the play has, I think, been inspiring for Flyers fans. We want to talk about Sean Walker. He was sort of the topic of conversation somewhat on Twitter today. And we'll get to some prospects, some phantoms, and we'll take a look at the Flyers' next opponents here, Jack. Before we get to Frost and some of the other guys, let's talk the 4-4-1 start, Jack. What have you seen the last couple games, even though they've been losses? Obviously, the 7-4 loss to Anaheim on Saturday, the score doesn't look great at all. But I didn't think the game was as bad as the score indicated. And then, obviously, the 3-2 loss to the Carolina Hurricanes last night. They give up another lead late. What are you seeing so far, Jack? We're almost 10 games in.
It's really hard to have too many issues with this team. I mean, the Ottawa game was the worst game of the season. That was how long ago now? Second game of the season. Like you said, Anaheim loss. I don't think it was as bad as we maybe, you look at the score, especially as the game went on and how out of hand it was. I wouldn't fully blame Ersan. Like I feel like there's, he shoulders some of the blame. But let's not forget, kind of tough to stay sharp when you're not playing too often. That shouldn't be an excuse, as Torts said after the game. That's part of the growth. We're just not going to. He also said he's not going to alternate the guys just to get Ersan in a rhythm. So he's going to have to figure that out, which I'm all about that. They just seem to be chasing that game. Like they would give up a goal, get some momentum, and then give up a goal. Not like have a close play or anything like that. Just give up a goal, and then they were just chasing, and they couldn't sustain any like real energy, or offensive prowess. And it also just seemed like a couple of plays that they had in other games that worked just didn't work. And I think what was eye-opening about it was Anaheim's not supposed to be a good team. So that was the shocker there. I lost money on this game. I was trying to, get a parlay in, and I'm like, yeah, I have confidence, and I just picked the wrong one. It happens to everybody. But overall, this is probably their second worst game of the season. And when I look at the underlying numbers, it's really not as bad as it seems. As far as Carolina, I don't know if you want to jump right into that, but they played a much better team, obviously. This team was a couple of wins away from the Cup last year, ultimately losing to Florida. I think they started slow. They were a little taken aback at how fast Carolina came at them, but they turned it around. They got the Delorier shift, is what you call it. That was awesome. I think Anderson was pretty mediocre in the first and second periods. I think he would definitely want to have a few goals back. The second one, the halfway goal kind of leaked through, but he was stellar in the third period. And it was kind of disappointing that they couldn't break through because they had played so well against a better team and just could not get that final goal. And then they end up giving up one where I felt Sanheim was a bit out of position. I don't know what he's doing hanging out next to the goalie. I would hope that, I don't know. But it just seemed like they just could. There was a play in front. I think it was, I don't know if it was Couturier where he went to the backhand. And I remember the puck went up in the air, and I couldn't believe it didn't go in. And that wasn't even the end of the sequence. Like they were really pressing, and Anderson just stood on his head. And it's unfortunate because they played a much better team and just couldn't come away with the W. But I can't say I'm upset with their overall play except for maybe one game. So, I mean, but what are we, 9 games in? Is it 4-4-1?
Yeah.
I mean, for the first 10, quote unquote, that's pretty good. It's hard to argue with that.
You mentioned a couple good topics to bring up here. So the one that I'm remembering right off the bat was, You mentioned Sean Couturier, and I can't imagine anybody thought that the Flyers would get this version of Couturier so quickly. And I don't even think he's playing at 100% yet. He's not fully back. I'm looking at a stat here, and this is posted by Mike Kelly. I'm not sure who made it or if Mike Kelly found the stat, but puck battle wins. This is the first time I'm seeing this stat, so maybe if it's been an analytic and maybe I've just been living under a rock, I don't know. But the 2023-2024 puck battle wins leaders, Jack, I'll read you the list and then I'll read you the number. Number 5, Sean Monahan, 35 wins, puck battle wins. Leon Draisaitl, 4 at 38. Joel Eriksson Ek, 3 with 38. John Tavares, 2 with 38. And guess who number 1 is? Sean Couturier with 47. I mean, this guy's coming off at least 2 back surgeries that we know of and leads the league in puck battle wins. That says something to me, you know? I guess he's healthy, right? And I think he's also has 8 points in 9 games. So he's vintage. I don't want to say he's vintage Coots yet, but he's getting there. And they're going to, if this team's going to do anything, right? If they're going to avoid finishing bottom 3, bottom 5, Sean Couturier is the type of guy that's going to make sure that doesn't happen. This team's going to be fun to watch. Are you surprised by what we're seeing from Couturier so far?
It's this quickly. I am. I thought it would have taken him more time. He did have a lot of time off, but come on, 2 back surgeries and things we've heard about it not exactly being something that's going to go away. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm waiting, and it almost did once we heard a maintenance day or whatever was going on with him. And he ultimately never missed any time and played. I thought that was the first sign, and it's been smooth sailing since then. And for him to just be pretty much back to where he was, at least it looks like that so far, is pretty good. I want to see if he can stay consistent and get a really good chunk of games in before we hear anything. I mean, that'll be a huge sign for him. But yeah, I mean, I would not have bet money on that bet that he'd be rolling into the season like he didn't miss anything.
Right. Currently tied for second in points on the team with Cam Atkinson and Travis Sanheim with 8 points. I mean, just those 3 players that I just named, Jack, Cam Atkinson, Sean Couturier, and Travis Sanheim are all tied for second in points on the team. And it's not like, okay, they're all tied with 4 points. All 3 of those guys are almost at a point per game. That has to say something, right? 2 of these guys didn't play all last year. The other guy, I mean, I think everybody knows how I feel about him. Did anybody think Travis Sanheim could have been a point per game player? We had Travis on here maybe a month ago saying, "Oh, Brandon Montour." I don't know if he said it on the show or not, but Jack, Travis Sanheim, 8 points in 9 games. Travis Konechny, who leads the team in points, 8 goals. Huh?
Don't ask me to explain that one. I'm still focused on his overall defensive play, but I'll take it. You know, he's your guy. I mean, I guess what's concerning is 1 goal, 7 assists for 8 points. He is a -1, however. I mean, he's going to be playing a lot of minutes. I can't be too upset about that. I mean, look, he's out there. He's almost like a point per game player as a defenseman. I want to see that, that -1 become more into the positives, obviously. But from what we were expecting, I guess those 10 pounds of muscles are making a difference.
Dude, this guy is a quarter of a way through 9 games to his season high total in points, career high total in points, which was 35 in his second season with the Flyers. It's offensively, something's different. Maybe just more players are finishing opportunities, and he's getting his name signed on with the goal as an assist and whatnot. But it is what it is from Travis Sanheim. We're only 9 games in, and I said, as you're saying, it's early, right? These guys started pretty good last year, and we saw how things kind of evened out a little bit. Let's give it, 15, 20 games and see what's going on here. But through 9 games, You got to give credit where credit's due. Some of these guys, I don't think anyone expected Atkinson, Couturier to come out in 9 games and look like their old selves. They haven't played in over a year. You have to keep that in mind. So a lot of good things. Bobby Brink, Jack, 6 points in 8 games. And I wanted to go back and check, but I think if he's not at the top for rookie scoring, he was for like a day. So something there to keep an eye on. Bobby Brink, can he keep it up? We'll see. It's an 82 game year. We're only 9 games in.
With him, I feel like it's going to be more about him finishing or whoever he's on the line with finishing, because the hands are there, the passing's there, the vision's there. I don't see he does make some interesting passes sometimes, but that's a young guy growing.
Yeah, well said.
In certain situations, though, where most Flyers players, let alone prospects, would just get rid of the puck, dump the puck. He doesn't typically do that. He does stick handle. He does make smart plays. He does like a little pass, like where the stick kind of comes out and curls around the back of the defenseman just so it's not blocked. Just so the pass actually has a chance of getting to where it needs to go. Little things like that. I'm not saying he'll be, challenging Bedard or anything, but I do think that he's going to spend more time in the lineup than not, because he knows how to use his offensive tools. And it's been a real pleasant surprise. And I know a lot of people might say, like, of all the pleasant surprises, you're going to say Brink. Yeah, I had wrote this guy off a little while ago. Couldn't seem to stay healthy. Scouts hated his skating. It felt like we didn't get Caulfield, but we got Brink. And that was almost like a joke. Well, now it's not a joke. Now he's everything I'm seeing. And I thought about this when we played Anaheim. Anaheim has like Zegras out there. Like they have their guys out there. Like we don't even have Gauthier or Michkov here. And these other guys are doing little things like this and showing they have skill and whatnot. Tippett scored again, obviously. Like that is something to get excited about. That is something to really look forward to.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Caulfield and Brink in the same sentence, which reminded me that put a poll out last week. I actually completely forgot about it, but
you're a sick man.
So the poll question was, would you rather have Cam York and Bobby Brink or Cole Caulfield? And to no surprise, I think Cam York and Bobby Brink were out to a big early lead in that poll. It does have 1 day left, but it's accumulated 1,525 votes. And 14,000 people have seen this poll. I guess Montreal fans found it for sure. We'll find the final results tomorrow, but we'll repeat it on the air. Do you want to know what it is, Jack?
I'm going to say like 60-something% Caulfield.
Yeah, you're pretty close. So Cam York and Bobby Brink, 36.6% of hockey fans, I guess, would rather have Cam York and Bobby Brink.
Hockey fans.
Yeah, because it's not just Flyers. Like this poll kind of.
There's a lot of Montreal fans who jumped in there, and they were.
Oh yeah, they were in there for sure.
Ask that question, have a little fun. God forbid you. By the way, you had your hockey knowledge discredited, your viewing privileges revoked. Like they went after you.
Yeah.
Ask me the question.
Yep. Cole Caulfield did win that poll with 63.4% of the vote. But I thought it was interesting. While it was sort of like a jokey poll, just to see what people would say, and I knew it was going to piss some people off, which would have made the poll spread a little bit more, because that gets people going, a little controversy. I think there should be some thought into this. Would you rather have what's the potential for Cam York, Jack? Like what's his ceiling, you think? And I'm putting you on the spot a little bit because we didn't really discuss this, but what's his ceiling?
I don't think he's an offensive, he's not a number one. I don't think he'll ever be a number one defenseman. However, I do think he's a guy who can play on the top pairing, who has the offensive skills and prowess and ability to make things happen. Kind of like what we saw in Ghost when he first came around. Something along those lines. I think he's a little smarter, thinks he plays better defense. We'll see how offensively gifted he is. He's not a guy. Players of that nature typically aren't number ones, unless you're maybe Carlson, but even then there's issues. And you're going purely on points too. So I can see him playing on a top pair with a guy who, if he really, gets his defensive game down, and the offense comes, and that which would be fantastic, especially if you're playing with on the forwards of Michkov and whoever else. That could be a lot of fun. But he's going to be a power play quarterback. Your power play quarterback, make things happen. You're going to you might even shelter his minutes, like a second pair guy, and really unleash him on the power play and any offensive chances you get throughout the game, which is if he can play defense, that's very, very niche, because a lot of those guys don't play defense very well. And I think he can. I just want to see if the offensive game can come through to the degree, because we've seen it. I've seen him shimmy, shake around guys and make some really highlight reel plays. How often has he done that, though? How consistently has he done that? I think he's a lot smarter than some of those other offensive guys, which makes me think his defense will be better. But yeah, I can see him playing like a Matt Carl was to a Pronger, but I ultimately see him being much better than Matt Carl, and whoever we got as Pronger probably not going to be Pronger.
Okay, I got what you're saying. I got you. So then I guess the other part of that is Bobby Brink. Like, what do we think Bobby Brink, the ceiling for him is? And I think it's a little harder because we really only seen him healthy. We haven't seen him healthy for a full year yet. He had the hip surgery. Started the season late in Lehigh last year. I think he got back in December, January-ish, but wasn't really himself until the last 2 months or so of the season. Comes into this year healthy, hits the ground running, makes the team out of camp, surprises everybody, right, except us. And 6 points in, I think it's 8 games. Looks like an NHL player. I don't know what his ceiling is going to be. I think he's at least a second line guy, whereas Cole Caulfield, bona fide, 40 goals. He's gonna score 40 goals. I think year in and year out, at the very least 30, 35. I don't think Brink's ever going to be a 30 goal scorer. But it goes back to would you rather have 2 really good guys or 1 stud, right? And I'm hoping some point down the line we can be like, yeah, we missed out on Caulfield, but we did okay with York and Brink. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I answered that poll. I was probably one of the first people to answer that poll, and I said Caulfield. I was never in more agreement with the Montreal fans. However, if things are going to go the way they're going to go, I didn't think I'd be this. I didn't even think the question as a joke could be asked when that draft first went down. So I'll take that for what it is.
And that was kind of what I wanted to see, because at the time we were distraught. And then, okay, well, Brink's up here now. York's playing on the top pair. I'm curious. What do we think? And, knowing that Montreal was going to hook on to that poll, I should have known. But it was funny for about 5 minutes when Cam York and Bobby Brink led that poll. But our special guest did just join the show. I want to grab him in here. Mr. Bill Meltzer. Bill, how was your Halloween, man? Thanks for hanging out with us.
It's really good. Really good. How about you guys?
It was busy. It was good. I got to hang out with some family.
Here too.
Yeah. So I'm glad to have you on the show. And we want to talk some Morgan Frost, who recently just got back in the lineup. And who better to talk Morgan Frost with than Mr. Bill Meltzer? So, Bill, I guess, we have some comments in the comment section here we want to get to for you. But I want to get kind of your candid take on the Morgan Frost situation and kind of hear your thoughts on everything that's been going on. I mean, you can't be any more dialed into this team than, someone like you. So it would be good to get your thoughts.
Well, honestly, I think coming into the season, the messaging is always going to be that nobody's given a spot. Everybody has to earn their spot. And, nobody had a bad camp. But I think a decision was made going in that unless he really had a bad camp, Tyson Forster was going to be in the NHL. And they were going to give him every chance they could to kind of spread his wings a little bit. What was a surprise was that Bobby Brink ended up having such a good camp and earning his way onto the team. Bobby was probably a day from going down, probably the same day that Elliot Denoyer went down, because Bobby didn't have a great rookie camp. He wasn't great in the 2 rookies games. He was one of the unfortunate souls who had to play that first preseason game against the Devils, because the Flyers had 6 scrimmages in 3 days, and I think 5 or 6 guys who played 2 scrimmages on Sunday, then had to turn around and play on Monday. Nobody had any legs in that game, and Bobby was one of them. So that's kind of unfair to judge anybody who played in that game because everyone was just dead tired from the conditioning, skating, et cetera, and the 6 scrimmages. So, but Bobby, he was probably going to go down midway through camp. Wasn't he wasn't subject to waivers, etc. So he's probably going to go down. Then they had the game in Boston where you couldn't take your eyes off of Brink, and he had a great game that day. So he earned himself another game and earned himself a second game, and then he had a game against the Devils in the preseason where you couldn't take your eyes off him. He earned himself a third game, and then all of a sudden he earned his way onto the team, and he's just continued it into the season. So, there'd been talk about maybe alternating Brink sitting one game and Forster sitting one game. Each one sat one, but each one's been in the lineup consistently since then. So, fairly or unfairly, and I'll argue not fairly, because Frost was not very good in the first 2 games of the season. All right. But but you could say the same thing about Owen Tippett. Owen Tippett had 2 really rough games to start the season too. A bad one in Columbus, and probably the worst game of his Flyers career in Ottawa. Now the Flyers collectively were bad in Ottawa, but Tippett had a really, really bad game. Going into the home opener against Vancouver, Noah Cates had 1 shot attempt, not even just 1 shot on goal, just 1 shot attempt through 2 games. So he wasn't making any impact, and he had a rough game in Ottawa. How often is Noah Cates out for 3 goals against? Right, that happened with him in the Ottawa game. So while the explanation is other guys were better, that to me is only half on the mark. Other guys were better, and other guys who were similar to Frost, there were guys who took a step last year, were about equal or not as good in the first 2 games. But only one sat. And only one sat for 6 games. So, Frost, I can almost recite this by heart because I've said it so many times already. Frost led the team in scoring for the last 2/3 of last season. It wasn't a month. It wasn't a week. It wasn't 2 months. It was from December 9th until the end of the season. Frost led the team in scoring. That's a significant enough sample size to go. He kind of turned the corner offensively. If you watch the episode of The Standard, which is the docuseries the Flyers do in training camp, in the last episode, they show a meeting where John Tortorella and Danny Briere and Keith Jones and Alan McCauley and Brent Flair are in a room discussing the roster. And one thing that Tort says during that meeting is that he doesn't feel that he's locked into having to use Case only as a shutdown center anymore. He's freed up a little bit offensively. And then he followed it up by saying, and you have to give Frosty credit because he improved a lot. I mean, talking about as a 2-way player, improved a lot last year. He grew last year, and he had a good camp. He had a good camp to the point of leading the Flyers in scoring during the preseason. Okay, so he led the team in scoring the last 2/3 of last season. He led the team in scoring in the preseason, and he had a good training camp. And he had 2 kind of not very good games to start the season. Ordinarily, I would think that would earn you a little bit more time than 2 games to get straightened out. I don't think sitting for 6 was fair, and I don't think it was just you couldn't possibly get him in the lineup. There are ways you could have found him in the lineup, as they did last game. It wasn't that Scott Laughton had done anything to get demoted to the 4th line. It wasn't that Ryan Poehling was so bad you had to pull him from the lineup. They just wanted to get Frost in the lineup. They could have done that a lot sooner. And he had a slow start to the game against Carolina, and then he really settled in as it went along. That 3rd period, he was creating scoring chances left and right, and he created a scoring chance for Forster on the power play in the 2nd period. He made an incredible pass to Konechny in the 3rd period. He set up another chance for Forster, and he created one for himself where he kind of danced in that. And actually, on top of that, created a power play. And he got hooked behind the net, a wraparound try. So created a ton of offense as that game went along. So to me, the Flyers aren't exactly swimming in creative playmaking centers. He should have been playing all along. That's honestly how I feel. Well, what's done is done, and hopefully he stays in the lineup going forward.
So we were trying to figure out what to make of it, because you figure, I mean, it is early in the season, and like you said, Frost led the team in scoring the last 3 quarters of the season. And, I think there were times last year, Jack, where I think Travis and I were getting a little excited, like, oh, like Morgan Frost has announced himself. Like he's here. He's a legit player. He's earned the spot on the team. And then to come out this year and play 2 games, and I think I'll speak for myself. I was kind of like, well, it's a good thing if they have this many guys where they can put a player like Frost, in the box or whatever, while Brink and Forster get their time. 6 games is a little excessive, though.
Yeah.
What does that do to a player's confidence? I mean, Frost is not by any means old, but he's not exactly a kid anymore. And we all know that his path to the NHL it's been a weird one with COVID and whatnot and the injuries. He's 24 years old now. What does that do for a guy's psyche, sitting for 6 games to start the season? You're excited to get out there, and all of a sudden you're sitting for almost 2 weeks.
Well, honestly, that was something I was very worried about going into the last night's game. Morgan never had anything like that in his career. Most players who were first-round picks don't have that in their career, right? He never sat more than one. Never sat back-to-back games. He was scratched one time last year and a couple of other times before that, but never for a prolonged stretch. And one of the big things with Frost was that he was a player who had some confidence issues as he was coming up. He'd get down on himself, he'd press, he'd force things. I was really worried about that happening. It's one game, but it's one game against a really good Carolina team. And then I watched him in that third period against that same very good Carolina team, just, making things happen. So so I felt a lot better afterwards, even though the Flyers just could not get a goal in that third period, anybody. But they had all kinds of chances. I mean, just the Flyers are actually the better team in that third period. So hopefully it didn't and won't affect his confidence level. But that's the risk. I mean, there's a real risk that you have a player that took a jump in confidence and you kind of step all over it by sitting a guy that long. Now hopefully as in these next few games he could put a few points on the board. It's only for so many games you can talk about chances. You have to at some point the pucks have to going in. But I thought I thought last night was positive for him, and it was a positive too for Tyson Forster too. They when Forster had his 8 games with the Flyers last year and had 7 points, who was his center? It was Frost, and
exactly.
And they had pretty instant chemistry, and I thought that chemistry showed last night. And I like that line with Konechny. I hope it stays together. I think they will produce. I like their chance against Buffalo of putting up some points. So we'll see how that goes. But it's definitely a pretty significant bump in the road, and hopefully we can not discuss it further.
I do want to ask kind of one more question here, and I try to look at this from the coach's perspective, like Tortorella's perspective. We kind of know how he is. I'm of the mindset, I think there's a reason behind everything that he does. I think he's a smart man. I don't believe, or I choose not to believe that, he's not going to sit a guy because he has an issue, an issue with him. I don't think that he makes things personal. I'm assuming that because I don't know him personally, but that's the impression that I get. So I'm assuming that there's something behind why he's doing this. I also don't think that it's as plain as why he said he's doing it. We're playing very well. I can't take anybody out of the lineup. I don't necessarily buy that. I don't think Torts is a liar, but I don't think he always tells the truth. Does that make sense? Like there's a difference.
No, for sure. And that you could say that about basically any coach, Joe.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
There's not lying. That's not the right word, but there's there's by omission,
Yeah.
right? And it was kind of, okay. Well, what aren't you saying?
Right.
I mean, honestly, coming into this year, I think the plan was again to get Forster into the lineup. They really want Cates to be more of an offensive guy. He's on the power play regularly. I'm of the belief that, and I like Noah Cates a lot. I like him a lot, and I think he can play in that kind of top 9 role that he's in. I don't think as a center you're going to get a ton of offense out of him. Mm-hmm. Well, you play him on the power play. They played him with Konechny. They put him with guys who are going to who would score with if he's going to score. But that's okay. Cates brings you a lot of things, but if you're trying to put make Cates as a power play guy, and and Lawton had been kind of moved to a wing, and he's been good at center so far. One of the things I really have always liked about Scott Lawton is that you can use him just about anywhere in your lineup. You can move him up, you can move him down, move him to the left wing, have him play center, have him kill penalties, plug him higher in the lineup for a period of time if you need to do that. If he goes 8 games without a point, it's going to happen at some point. Scotty he produces in bursts, and he has bursts where he's not producing points. But if Scott goes 8 games without a point, Lotz isn't going to care. Like he's really a player who doesn't care whatsoever about what his offensive stats are. So he's a great player to kind of move around the lineup. I personally like him better on left wing than at center, but he can play either. Paling is a 1-year commitment. I don't think you should be locked into playing Paling every game, but he had a good camp. So they don't want to use Frost on the wing. That question was asked. Well, he's a center. Well, to me, yeah, he's a center, but it's better he's playing and he's on a wing than not playing at all. Because again, other than Brink, who other than Frost would you call a playmaking forward on the team?
Right.
I mean, Konechny can do a little bit of everything, but he's still a scorer more than a playmaker. So Frost is a kind of pure playmaker, as is Brink. I think you need a couple of those guys in your lineup. But I think they came into the season with a mindset that they want Cates to be a little bit more offensive minded. They moved Lawton to center. That all of a sudden, and it's nothing against Paling, but I'd like to see it stay this way. I like Lawton as a 4th line guy you could slide up if you have to. And Paling again is only a 1-season commitment, but I really do think it is a combination of there were guys they wanted to look at in the NHL lineup. I think Torts was I think he was slow to warm to Morgan last year. It's not anything personal. I mean, I cannot imagine a person having a personal difference with Morgan Frost. You will not find a nicer kid, right? He's more coachable. He's pretty laid back. He's not he's not a problem at all. So I can't imagine it being any kind of a personal issue. I just think it was, Frost is when Torts was coaching the New York Rangers, Matt Zuccarello could not get into Torts' lineup. He was either using the 4th line or he was quite often scratched. He barely played. And Zuccarello was going to go back to Europe, except that Torts was dismissed to New York, and actually AV came in as head coach. And now, Zuccarello is playing all the time, 2nd line power play, and he's had a really long, pretty successful NHL career since then. Zuccarello was really not a Torts kind of player, kind of on the small side. He's not a fire and brimstone kind of player who's going to block a ton of shots or, more playmaker than scorer. He's not going to, so it's just not that he doesn't see the value of playmakers, but he's just not Torts' quintessential kind of player, right? And I think Frost falls into a similar category that Zuccarello did. And last year, I think Torts' arm had to be twisted a little bit to put Frost in the lineup regularly, and I think he made a judgment that he didn't think Frost was going to be part of the picture here, and then Frost came in and said for 2/3 of the year, kind of, more or less. He had some down games too, but more or less surprised and looked like he fit in. But I don't think Torts is still sold yet, so they wanted to look at other guys, and I think that we'll see how that is going forward. I mean, they signed Frost to a 2-year deal. A 3-year deal would have taken him right to unrestricted free agency. A 1-year deal would have been an arbitration case next year. So a 2-year deal, and that was really what it was. It was not any kind of just big divide between the agent or certainly the player and the organization. It was just a question of, okay, what dollar figure and what term would work for both sides, and not having arbitration rights this offseason. Frost's only leverage, or his agent's only leverage, because the agent really handled all that. The only leverage is to take it down close to camp. Mm-hmm. If you can't file arbitration and you're, a first-time restricted free agent. So really, I think that's why there was never a danger of him not signing or anything like that. He was in camp in time. All that's kind of par for the course. I think when you look at the power structure within hockey operations, I know that Danny Briere likes Morgan Frost. Last year at the Flyers alumni fantasy camp, I happened to sit at dinner with Danny one of the nights, and we just conversing, but for a lot of issues. But I asked about Frost, and he said, I think Frosty really turned a corner this year. That was a year ago. That was late in the season, under Yo, late in the final 12 games of that season. He was looking forward to see how we would do last year. I mean, remember that Danny was a guy who took a while to click at the NHL level. It was a first-round pick. He'd been through waivers, et cetera. And then it was, I think, 23 years old, same as Frost, actually, that Danny started to turn things around in his career. So I think Briere felt a degree of connection with that. Again, I don't know he's necessarily Torts' kind of player. I don't know he's necessarily Jonesy's kind of player. But I think there's a division of opinion within there, and so you want to take a look at different guys. It still is a long season. We're getting to the part of the year where it was last year, where Frost, people forget this. People forget that Frost spent 3 weeks last year on the fourth line. He had a game where he was scratched in Toronto, but for a 3-week period, from the October 28th game, I think it was, against San Jose, until the 22nd or so of November, till right before Thanksgiving. Who was line mates? He was playing with Nick Delorier. He was playing with Zach McEwen. He was playing with Max Willman. He was playing a little bit with Lucas Sedlak. He was playing when the Flyers first claimed Bellows off of waivers last year. He was playing with Bellows, and he was playing 8 to 11 minutes a night. It's kind of hard to produce when you're playing. I mean, you're playing the bottom of the lineup, no power play time, and no offense to those guys. It's not those guys can't play, but they're not the right line mates for Frost. It was kind of at the end of November and beginning of December when they started putting him regularly with Tippett, and they put together the line with JVR. That's when he started to turn the corner. But who's to say it couldn't happen sooner, right? So
I'm always like, these guys. Say this about a lot of people, but these guys are a lot smarter than I am. The coaches, the GMs, who the hockey guys they know what they're doing, I assume.
Sure.
So I ask myself, what would be the benefit of doing that to a guy who, his best talents are his playmaking? Why would you put him on the fourth line with these players? What would be the benefit to the player to do that? Do you know what I mean? And so every time they're doing something with this kid where it seems like maybe tough love or, whatever answer that I can think of, I'll ask you, what would be the benefits of doing that to a guy who his best asset is his offensive ability? Why would you do that?
Well, I think in specific to Frost's case, I think it took a while for Frost to have games where he was, consistently creating enough to to merit moving him up in the line. As Torts saw it, I mean, I think people had seen hints of it before. I mean, Torts has said himself that he doesn't go by anybody else's estimation; he goes by his own judgment. I think Torts can sometimes come to, as good a coach as he is, and you can't look at his track record and say he's been anything other than a good coach in the NHL. I think that sometimes he comes to a judgment on a player, and once he has that judgment, it's very hard to change that judgment.
Yeah, I would agree.
There were other guys. Like, for example, in camp this year, I don't think there was any way short of just playing out of his mind that Tanner Lazinski was going to make the team this year. I thought that from the beginning of camp, Wade Allison had an uphill climb to try to make the team. Yeah. So I think that, and Frost wasn't in that category because he had enough success last year that he would have had a really bad camp, which he didn't. But to not make the team at all, but I think to just be part of that group that's in the lineup every single game, even though the numbers, even the basic numbers showed that he was in that group with Tippett and with Cates and with Cam York, who they should be playing every day. I think Torts obviously didn't come to that point where even at the end of last year he felt that was the case. No coach is perfect. No coach makes every decision right. So,
well, from players' perspective as well, like those guys you just mentioned, I think knew that they were on the bubble. I think they knew that they had to have a hell of a camp just to make the roster. Whereas if you're Morgan Frost, if I'm putting myself in his shoes, I'm thinking like, I'm on this team. I'm going to be a big part of this team. And then to not play in 6 games, now I'm trying to see this from his perspective. Now I'm like, wait, am I one of these bubble guys? Am I one of the outside looking in type guys? Am I lumped in with Brink and Forrester? These guys can be sent down whenever they need to be sent down. Am I part of that crew, or am I part of the, you're part of the core, let's go crew? Yeah. I would be in my head a little bit. So I was trying to get in his psyche a little bit, and good for him. He had a nice game yesterday.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how he bounces back.
Well, we'll see. We'll see in upcoming games. Again, it was a good first step. We'll see from there. I think that I think it's important that you have a support system around you of teammates and not just your mom. I mean, Frosty was saying how his mom kept texting him just to make sure you're okay. But former teammates reaching out, people have been in that situation to different degrees in their career. Yeah. Ultimately, hopefully it's something that makes them stronger. But I do think that but he had to be wondering what was going on. I mean, again, you lead the team in scoring in the preseason. You think you're in a good spot to, if you do have a couple not great games to start, you get a chance to work through it. And okay, you're sitting the opener, and okay, you win the. Some of it is how the team played, but I definitely think what's the deal here? Am I in the plan or am I not?
Right.
And I think that still is a question mark to a degree. But listen, all a player can ask for is play me, send me over the boards, and let my play dictate it.
That's it.
And if Frost is playing, stays with Konechny and with Forster, and is getting power play time, and he takes a step back from last year, that's on him. Simple as that.
Yeah, it really does break it down. It really is that simple. Let me just get to the schedule here. So the Flyers' next 3 upcoming games: tomorrow night against the Buffalo Sabres. Excellent opportunity to put up some points. The Sabres are a good young team. Also, they go away to Buffalo, play the Sabres on Friday, and then they're home again Saturday against LA.
Yeah.
Jack, any questions for Bill before we let him run?
The only thing I got, and Jimmy asked a lot of good questions, when it comes to Frost and Bill, I just like to unleash him, let him go. So it was fantastic. It seems too early, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you think there's any threads of this being any issues behind the scene, irreversible damage between Frost and Torts, and God forbid Frost and the organization?
No, none whatsoever. If it were to linger for and become an all season thing, then I think that might be the case. When you follow sports and you follow passionately, I think we all get caught up in the here and now a lot of times. I think that by the end of the season, whatever happened back in October feels like ancient history. To me, it's kind of like the hockey equivalent of April baseball, right? I'll give you an example, not comparing Frost to them, but just as the perspective of it. For his major league career, Ryan Sandberg was a Hall of Fame second baseman. For his career, he was a 220 hitter in April, and it was by far, he never got a fast start once in his entire career. But by the end of the year, whoever remembered that he had a bad April because he was an all-star and was one of the top second basemen in the game. That's a kind of an extreme example, but just the whole point being that long season, the story of the season is written over the course of a whole year, not 2/3, not half a year or whatever. So I don't think anything is irreversible.
Perfect. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. All about that. That's great. Yeah, it does. I agree with you guys. We were making our lineups to start the season, and I'd say Frost, second line center for us. He wasn't penciled in. I think I used pen with mine, so it was a little shocking. But it's good to hear. And I'm with you, Jim. I definitely think there's more to it than just some kind of dislike for the play. I don't even think it's that. So I think there's a lot of factors going on here.
Yep, for sure. I guess last question for you, Bill. Early surprises so far for you, positive surprises with the team.
I'd point to three guys as really pleasant surprises. I think you have to start with Brink just because, again, he was kind of a bubble guy coming into camp coming off the hip surgery and really spent a lot of time that he was with the Phantoms in the second half of last year trying to get caught up, and he's been tremendous so far. I think that's been great. I wasn't expecting that much success that fast into the season. A second surprise, I would say, is Sean Walker has been really, really solid, not just with his couple shorthanded goals, but as a 18, 20 minute a night NHL defenseman who you can rely on, pretty steady. Most of the time you don't notice him, and not noticing, a defenseman like Walker's, it's a good thing. It means he's doing his job. So he's been solid and steady. I'm almost kind of wondering if he keeps it up, do they look to maybe extend him to a new contract rather than trade him at the deadline, which I thought was a lock going.
That.
So I think that's been a big pleasant surprise so far. And I would say the third thing is that just the sheer number of minutes that Sanheim's been pulling down. And
plus 25 minutes a night, right? So far.
Yeah, he's in the top three in minutes played. Coming in, a lot of us, myself included, was like, well, how are they going to distribute Provorov's old minutes? Is it going to? I thought it was going to have to be by committee. I thought everybody had to absorb a little bit more. So far they've handed all those minutes to Sanheim, and he's not a Norris defenseman, but he's been off to a pretty good start overall, taking all the minutes they can hand him, and he's done better than I thought he would do, honestly, so far.
Yeah, I think those are a great three. So with that, Bill, I think we'll let you go. Do you want to get your Twitter, whatever it's called now, Twitter handle out there?
Yeah, it's at Bill Meltzer, just my name, and so that's all that's going on. The one other thing that the plug is that Joe Watson's autobiography comes out this month.
Oh wow!
I co-wrote it with Joe. Actually, big thing coming up on Thursday night. Joe's going to be inducted into the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame, and I'm excited for that.
That's outstanding. That's a huge project. Looking forward to that. So,
thank you,
Bill. Thanks for coming on short notice, I think, too. So we appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed your Halloween. Well, I'll see you tomorrow night, I think, for the game.
I have. See you tomorrow, and it's always a pleasure, guys. Take care.
Thank you, Bill. Have a good night. There he is, the legend. You're not going to meet a nicer guy than Bill Meltzer, by the way. So a lot there, Jack. And we talked about Frost a lot. I want to get into Bill's surprising 3 players because a couple of those guys were on our list to talk about tonight. And I want to toot my own horn real quick, Jack, if you will let me. So,
toot away.
The first player he mentioned, Bobby Brink. Who said that he had a chance to make the team this year?
Jim.
Yeah, I did. And then number 2, when they made this Provorov trade and they got, all this huge package they got back, Sean Walker was kind of the forgotten man in this trade, right? It was kind of like, oh, this guy's making 2.6, whatever he's making, cap dump from the Kings. And okay, he may have been a cap dump for the Kings because they had whatever they had going on defensively. But when I saw that we got this guy in this trade, I was like, well, Briere basically just stole this guy because he's going to play for the Flyers and he's going to get top 4. Well, I thought top 4 minutes. And I looked at him as, well, this is the kind of trade you want your GM to make, right? Because you're getting assets that you don't even realize are assets in the trade. The other team views him as a cap dump. We'll turn your garbage into gold. We'll flip him for something at the deadline. Bill's talking about possibly extending him. Now we're only 9 games in, right? I don't know if I'm at that point yet with Sean Walker, but this is a guy, the Flyers will absolutely get something for Sean Walker at the deadline. He's got 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points in 9 games, +1. He's played well. He's going to make his mistakes. So while I'm not going to, juice this guy up to, I'm not going to make him into something he's not. He's a very solid NHL player. And I think fans are seeing it now. So I was kind of, it was just funny that Bill mentioned Sean Walker. And then obviously, if you want to kick me down a peg, Travis Sanheim's off to a great start this season. And I don't like Travis Sanheim. So there we go. Nothing personal, but so those 3 guys, Jack. I mean, we talk about Brink a lot. Anything for Sean Walker and then Travis Sanheim?
Well, first off, all 3 of these players are all in different points of their career.
Yep.
Sean Walker's in something of a resurgence. This was a big year for him. Pleasantly surprised. I believe that Tortorella's aggressive defensive style fits Walker. He is an aggressive defenseman. What do you see that what I pulled out here? According to Evolving Hockey, Walker leads the Flyers in goals above replacement at 2.7 and wins above replacement, a baseball stat, at 0.5. So already looking solid there. But my main point there, I just want to throw some stats here.
Love stats here.
Analytics is what I should have said. But no, I think it's the aggressive style. It's where he's at in his career, what he needs. He had come back from injury with LA. So I think with their young guys coming in and some trades they had made, was it Garakov or whoever they got from from Columbus. I think he just seemed like an odd man out, So you're right. One man's trash is another man's treasure. So I was very pleasantly surprised. Brink's a young guy, so different story there. Sanheim, I'm happy with. I'm not as crazy happy with. This guy's getting paid. He's getting paid for a long time. So I'm happy that he's playing well. I'm happy that he's eating up these minutes. I sure as hell hope he can keep this up because it is vital to either having him being a part of the future, which he's signed to, or God forbid, moving on from him if need be. I do want to see a little bit more for him defensively. I'm not going to he's got 8 points in 9 games. He's off to the races. There is still a little bit more left to be desired there. He is getting more aggressive along the boards. I do see him, at least hitting people, cross-checking, getting a little gritty. Still a lot of work to do. But, yes, I can't say I am upset with any of those players. That's for sure. So, yeah, that's the best you can ask for.
Yeah. And the cool thing is he didn't even mention Couturier, Atkinson, Joel Farabee's off 4 goals in 9 games. I mean, there's a lot of players that you could pick from here. And, the fact that he picked Sean Walker, I thought was pretty cool.
Didn't say Zamula has surprised?
Didn't say Zamula. Yeah. Actually, you bring up Zamula. I did a little scouting on Zamula here on, I think it was the Saturday game. So I'll bring that up real quick. And I wasn't a Zamula believer. I don't think anyone's surprised about that. It kind of reminded me of a Sanheim a little bit, but Sanheim's been playing well. Let's see here. So Zamula, this is incomplete, by the way. It's just one game. What I like about this player, Jack, and this is just from Saturday, is it looks like he knows his job. Whereas watching him before, he looked kind of erratic, maybe, I guess, to an extent. Now he looks in control. He looks like he's playing with some conviction, maybe with confidence. I would like to see a little bit more of that from him. More bang, bang instead of, okay, I have it. Now I'm going to go here. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? But he blocked a couple shots in his zone. He was out there for some extended shifts, got the puck out, made the smart pass, didn't really turn the puck over, which is very important for a third-line defenseman. If you're a third-line defenseman, usually you just don't want your name called. If your name's called, it's usually not a good thing. You know what I mean? You're just out there looking to not make mistakes, in my opinion. So I didn't not like what I saw from Zamula. I'm not going to go crazy because, like I said, it was just one game. But I think they have something in Zamula, Jack. They have something to at least work with, which it's just weird because the Flyers have prospects now and they're kind of panning out, Jack. Like, it hasn't been like that for the last however many years. It's been not fun. Like, we've been excited for prospects and they're just like, they've been blah,
We're jaded, and rightfully so. So it's hard for us to accept anything positive. I mean, he's a +6, Jim, in 7 games. I mean, he's, as a defenseman, as a forward, that might not do it. As a
third pair
defenseman, I mean, what more? You're saying you don't want to have your name called. Being a +6 out there, not only are you, nothing is happening in your end, the team's scoring when you're out there. I mean, come on, third pair. So you went from thinking we have nothing, we have to rebuild. Well, probably 2 years ago, year and a half ago, people are probably we're probably going to move Frost, we're going to move Sanheim, we're going to do this, we're going to rebuild the whole damn thing. Even at a time when some people weren't fully on board with a full rebuild. And now we're like, oh, we can trade Walker, God forbid, extend him. Even Sealers is, gives you something that you can work with. Frost is right back, and he's an NHL player, should be your second line center going forward. He's turned a corner, we're hearing, and whatnot, despite this Tortorella game sitting scenario. Now Zamula has stepped into the mix. Brink has stepped into the mix. Guys that we had completely written off, I'd say, less than a year ago even. Sure, the name would pop up, but did you really give it a second look? It's like, oh yeah, some another Flyers prospect from the early Fletcher regime. Oh, gung woohoo, So it's like, when I look at their roster, it's hard for me to find a player that I'm not impressed with. I would like Forrester to break through, but I can't say that he's been bad. I mean, if he got benched tomorrow, I wouldn't think it's the end of the world.
Right.
York seems to have left a little to be desired. 9 games, a goal, 2 assists. For 3 points, he's a -1. I'd expect a little bit more from him. I'm not a big was this Louis Belpedo?
I don't like that call up at all, man. He does not look like an NFL player.
I was surprised. I'm not impressed, but whatever. Even Hart has looked strong. I'm not gonna say anything on Ersan yet. Paling's been fine. Andre, he's been okay at best. Saul was hurt. It's hard to say. It's fourth line's pretty good. Cates has picked it up. Geez, I'm up at the top of the lineup because Tippett started scoring again. Lawton is fine, obviously. So it's the whole roster. There's nobody that jumps out at me I have issues. And then that's, I was going to say, is that Odin?
Oh, you can hear him in the background?
I didn't know I thought you were growling at me. I'm like, I know.
He's snoring.
Oh, he's snoring.
That's Odin.
Yeah, but no, it's you could have put a couple of people on that list of surprises this year. And I know there's, again, look, we have to do a pod every week. So I'm tired of saying, oh, it's only been 4 games. It's only been 6 games. It's only been 9 games. It is what this is where we're at. This is it. This team's they're gonna be pesky, man. It's gonna be tough. I hope they stay competitive. I can't help but want a top pick this year. It irks me, but at the same time, when I'm watching the game, when that TV goes on, I'm a full-fledged Flyers fan. I wanted them to win that game against Carolina so bad. Like I stopped myself from throwing my phone, because I was like, okay, look, it's not. Is really? Are we going for anything this year? When they gave the goal, I think it was Teravainen that scored. Right. It was. He just had played so well. I felt he deserved it, and for that play to happen the way it did was like, come on. But I'm glad I feel that way. That means they're playing well. It means they're exciting. That means anytime one of these young guys gets their hands on the puck, I'm like glued to the TV. It's great. I haven't felt that way in a long time.
Right. How about towards patting some of these guys on the back after they score a goal?
Brink quite literally walking over and patting him on the back, and then he goes down and gets another one. Like that's great.
It's fun. You like to see that stuff. And the Flyers do have 2 first-round picks this year, right? I think, what is it, top 5 or top 10 protected from Florida or something?
Yeah, that Florida's.
I have to go double check that, but
I don't remember seeing anything about protection, but maybe I'm sure it's there. I don't think we have to worry about that.
I'll take a peek real quick. Well, they're tied with Florida in points right now.
Yeah, it's early. I'm not worried about it. I mean, that division can be a little, well, I think things will settle out by the end, but it's, they got 2 first-round picks. That's why I said they got to beat everybody in the division and Florida. And
you did say that, yeah.
And I'm hoping they get more. Like, it's funny. We're at the point where it's like, well, these guys are playing so well. We got to keep them. And I'm just like, oh man, I was looking forward to like having a 4 first-round pick first round next year and a pretty good first round at least draft. Like that'd have been fantastic.
It ends up being win-win, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, ultimately I wanted them to, well, we'll see. Yeah, I guess sometimes that bites you, like, but I don't think that'll be the case here, but
I hear you.
I'm still for selling. I really want to see what they can get. This is great that they're playing the way they're playing. Guys like even Sealer, there's a team that would trade for him for something.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Definitely Walker at this, because he's so cheap. If you have a guy you can put on your bottom pairing, put in, you might not even have to play your bottom pairing. If you have a team like Toronto, they'll take any defenseman who can play defense and keep his mouth, or keep his name out of people's mouths. Like that's exactly what they need.
Some of these comments. Don't be rude, Ted. All right. Yeah, you know what I thought was interesting, if the Flyers did end up signing a guy like Walker, that blocks guys like Adder, blocks who's the other right guy? I mean, Bonk's going to take a couple years to come up. Yeah, they had another right-handed D down there. Grans.
That's your boy. That's your one LA guy.
Yep. Who's the other? They have one more. I can't recall his name now. Jamie Bascal's guy.
Jeez. I know
exactly
exactly
who I mean. Yeah. I think it's Ethan Sampson. Is that his name?
That's it. Ethan Sampson. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we'll see. We'll see.
They simmer a little bit longer. Like Sampson's one of them. You can let those guys simmer. It'd be fine.
They got good problems to have right now. You got too many guys, and that's fine. Okay. We're just a little bit over an hour, Jack. Did we miss anything that you wanted to touch on?
Just the very devastating. The death to. I don't have his name written down with that.
I believe it was Adam Johnson.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, with the skate.
I mean, I don't know what else to say that hasn't already been said. The only thing I'll add is like, I had heard of a goalie incident back in like the 70s where the guy, he almost died. He survived. My dad told me that apparently this happened to Rick McLeish. It wasn't as serious, but still happened. I remember Michael Remberg catching it like here or something. And that was pretty serious. And I believe it happened, about 12 years ago to some player. And he survived. But this was, I mean, I don't know if you saw the video. Well, I know you did, but our fans, if you will, listeners, I don't know if you saw the video. It is brutal. And it's just it's a real shame. And you had I don't know if you want to get into it, Jim, but you had a conspiracy theory here. I don't know if you want to.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that it wasn't. I'll be honest. I mean, I saw it with my own eyes. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. What I saw was not an accident. I think it was an accident that he killed the guy, but I think he had all the intent in the world to do exactly what he did. Right. And of course, when you kill somebody, you're going to be distraught, and he should be distraught because what he did was unforgivable. You took a man's life because in a second of whatever it was, you decided to kick him in the throat. I don't know if you meant to kick him in the throat. Doesn't matter. You tried to kick this man with an ice skate, with a blade on the bottom of your foot. I saw what I saw. You can't tell me that's not a hockey play, what he did. He jumps and kicks him in the throat. I don't know how people can say that that was an accident. I think it's I can't believe that I watched it. I can't believe what I saw. Just I couldn't. I only saw the small replay because I don't do good with blood. And somebody literally, if I was at that game, I would have threw up. If I was watching that game live, I would have threw up. I can't watch that stuff. It's not a movie. You know, I think some of us are maybe desensitized. A real person died because somebody kicked him in the throat with an ice skate intentionally. Just call it what it is, you know? So that's my opinion on that. I think I saw the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins made it mandatory as of today to wear wrist guards and throat guards. I don't know what they look like. You know, and this is not the first time that's happened. You mentioned, Jack. I think it happened to like Richard Zednick really bad one time where he actually did get his throat sliced.
I remember it's just holding a towel. I don't think it cut the jugular. I just think it cut the neck.
Right. And it was in no way. It didn't. That wasn't like you can see the difference between an accident and somebody kicking a guy in the throat. Like, come on.
I will say the slow motion, the view you're talking about. I saw the whole thing. The blood doesn't bother me that much unless I'm like physically there. Yeah. But from the video, like it doesn't look as bad. You can almost make an argument that he got kind of clipped. But then again, I watched the other video and it almost looks like his leg kind of like is trying to hit something. I don't want to say his throat. You look at and I brought this up in our group chat. You look at a player like in the NBA, like from the Golden State. I hate him. I can't stand him.
Draymond Green.
Draymond Green. He and I've played against people like this. You don't have to be like that, like good to be this like in your head madly competitive. Like he goes up for a rebound and like his feet are just kicking because and it's never when he gets the rebound. It's when he doesn't. You know, and it kicking people in the nuts and whatnot. I can't control that. And then a doctor came out like, that's not true. Your body does not move that way unless you do that, you know. And people like are oddly competitive in a way where they're just like, I can't lose me, you know. And I don't know if he was just. I find it hard to believe that he chose the throat, but I do think he was trying to do something really screwed up. And this poor kid paid the ultimate price. And even saying what I just said, I don't fully 100% believe it because it's almost too perfect of a hit. Right. I try not to think that somebody would be that malicious, that evil, even to an extent. And I thought I read that they are opening an investigation or they're looking further into it, and they should be. They absolutely should be.
Yep. I think. I mean, what I saw was that's like protocol, like when somebody dies like that or something, that you have to do that, but. Look, I'm not saying I don't know this guy. So I can't say whether he's a good person, bad person. I didn't watch the game. I don't know what was playing out in the game. But, you know, having played sports, having been, you know, someone that, you know, we're all able to be pissed off at some point in our lives. And during that time of anger or emotion or whatever, we've all done something dumb. And to me, you know, unfortunately in this situation, who knows what goes through anybody's mind. I don't know. I don't know if he had something personal with the Adam Johnson. I don't know if it just happened to be Adam Johnson that was there, but it was not a play or a move that I've ever seen in hockey in my life. You know, even if it missed him or even if it hit him somewhere else, when you watch it, it's like players you don't see players move that way. You know, you just, I don't know.
It was the same with Draymond Green. They don't move that way.
Yep, you said it.
It's just, I don't know. If it's protocol, they better take it seriously. Like, I mean, Jesus, can you imagine that was your kid or something, or brother or friend? Like, over that, are you serious? Like,
yep.
Every other time this has happened that we've seen, it's been an accident. You know, like I think it was Olli Jokinen's, like it was his own teammate. His like skate happened to go up and catch his own. It was an accident. You know, didn't even know he was there. This, I didn't even know what you filed this on. And then you hear the guy has like issues in the past, just personally, and it's not looking good. And it's just what a freak for no reason.
I hate to assume, but I'm just trying to call it how I see it, you know. So that's kind of what we do. I may be wrong, and that's perfectly fine. All I want is for whatever is right to happen. You know, if he did it on purpose, deserves what he gets. If it was an accident, you know, I hope he's able to live with himself for what he did. So,
well, let's go on a positive note, Jim. There was a little discrepancy. My dad, I moved in. He brought over some hockey stuff. I found some pretty cool things. I'll rapid fire through. It's not that much.
All right.
It's just land a little bit happier here. All right. So got a couple of movie tickets here. Ready? In 99, I saw Austin Powers. Probably the second one. In 98, I saw Jack Frost. There's a hockey play in that.
Great movie.
And in 97, Batman and Robin. Oh, what a stinker. All right, now on to sport. I have a couple of Rollers Wars from the Attitude Era. And then I got a Philadelphia Phantoms against Providence. That was 99, but here's the good stuff. I was apparently in January 5th, 1999. There's 4 tickets here. It's the Canadian AHL All-Stars against Planet USA.
Wow.
All-Stars. All-Star game. Skill. I have the All-Star game and skills competition.
Where was this at?
I saw First Union. It was in Philly. It was First Union Center was called. So that's pretty rare, random, and cool. If I had to guess, I think that's where I got my Brian Boucher Phantoms jersey signed. That I think it was a skills competition. I don't know.
That's pretty cool.
So remember I showed you this book here? It's pretty cool, all the stats. I found the game ticket to that. It was in 99 against Toronto. It was the First Union Center there.
When they actually did tickets, huh?
Seriously. Look, we talked about Alexander Day, right? I told you overtime. Here's the tickets from that game against Pittsburgh Penguins, March 8th, 1998.
I remember those tickets.
For that game. And we were talking about what was Jack's first game. I was going to go 94 or something like that. We looked it up. Well, I got to go back to the well here. I got 2 different games. This one is a Buffalo Sabres game. I looked it up. They tied 4-4. And you see at the bottom there, it says Jack's first OT. And that was a 92. And then I found the game like a week before that against Ottawa. So I have no idea when my first game was or what happened. So I got what my dad told me. I find this box of just random shit. I'd have been 5 years old, man. It was I've been 4 years old. It was like a week or 2 away from my 5th birthday. So
how cool is that?
More sad thing. I had found 2 postcards in here that me and my friend wrote to each other when we were really young. Look who's on the postcard.
Oh my God! Wow.
And may he rest in peace.
May he rest in peace.
But no, I thought the All-Star thing was pretty cool. Brought back some memories. I don't know hell knows what else. Jay, we can't do this on the show anymore. There's way too much shit over here. I got unopened packs of cards and stuff from like the 80s.
Unopened? We got to crack some of those bad boys open on the show.
1991.
Wow.
This score. It's not if it was, it's just exclusive Bobby Orr cards, or I could win it. Maybe I won it. I never opened it.
Could you imagine? You could be rich and you just never know.
Dude.
You have to pop some of those open on here.
Dude, the franchise, Joe Sakic. I'm just saying, like, what the fuck? Okay, too much. We'll be here all night. Sorry.
No, that is cool.
But I did
go through some of them.
The first game thing, that the mystery continues. I have no freaking clue my first game.
That's fun. All right, boys and girls. Teddy, Dave in the comments, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks to everyone who stuck around during the episode. Thanks to our guest, Mr. Bill Meltzer. The Flyers play tomorrow night against the Buffalo Sabres at home. Hopefully we see a W. They then have them again Friday, and they play the Kings, Los Angeles Kings on Saturday. So we'll be back. Do they play Monday? I don't know why I didn't just keep going and see if they played Monday. We'll figure out when we'll be back, but hopefully we're talking Flyers wins. AJ Brown is MVP. He is. He's the absolute MVP, Jack. You have him on your fantasy team. This guy, I could do a whole show on AJ Brown. He is the best wide receiver in the NFL, AJ Brown. And I've said it multiple weeks.
One of the best.
Every week, this guy's making an insane catch. He reminds me of T.O. He might be better than T.O. And I just feel like he gets overshadowed by some, for whatever reason, Justin Jefferson overshadows him because he's got the yards. Tyreek Hill overshadows him because he's got the speed. But AJ Brown is the full package, in my opinion. And we're going to end on that note. So, Teddy, thanks for bringing that up. All right, boys and girls, we'll be back next week. Thanks for hanging out. Happy Halloween. Good night.
Of course, now.